Hello, world. What is up? Welcome to Build at Home. I'm your host, Matt Forte, and I'm coming to you from my home, as I believe our next guest is. We'll find out in a second. But before we jump in, we've been starting the shows lately highlighting the work and efforts of NoKidHungry.org. Millions of children are losing the healthy meals they depend on as the coronavirus closes schools nationwide. 472 million meals, to put a real number on it. And No Kid Hungry has a plan to feed them, which is great, but we need your help. So head over to NoKidHungry.org, take a look, see if you can help feed these kids. All right. All right, let's jump into the show. Our next guest stars is John B. in the new Netflix original series Outer Banks. The show follows a tight-knit group of friends known as the Pogues, the Outer Banks, North Carolina. When a hurricane kills the power for the summer, sets off a chain of events that lead to there's a crazy treasure hunt, there's murder, there's romance, and life-altering. It's got everything. The show's amazing. I'm not gonna lie, I got pulled into it right away, and I think you're gonna be too. Wherever you are, make some noise, and please welcome star of Outer Banks, the great Chase Stokes is here. Chase, how you doing, man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me today.
Dude, it's so awesome to have you on the show. Congrats on this thing. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thanks so
Talk to
much.
you about it. First and foremost, dude, how are you doing? How is quarantine life treating you? How are you holding up over there, man?
Got my hand sanitizer right here, so staying nice
Oh
and
wow,
clean.
hold on to that.
Dude, I've thought about putting it on eBay, but you know what? This is a commodity in this day and age, so I'm holding on tight. No, it's going great, man. I mean, we actually a couple people from the show, we decided to quarantine together, and it's been a riot. It's been about a week and a half of us just causing chaos. We finished the whole Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. We started on the Harry Potter series. I mean, we're finally on the very last film. We tried to finish it last night, but didn't get through it. But the
That's a
best
tough one to
part
get
is
through. Yeah.
it is, dude. I mean, especially when you're just nonstop on the movie scene. I mean, we've just been trying to crank through it. But we built this crazy tent in the living room.
You guys built a fort?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's pretty iconic. So here's the outside of the fort.
No.
So that's Rudy and Drew. So Rudy plays JJ,
my
Drew plays
God.
Rafe.
That's
And
insane.
here's the inside of the circus. So that's
Whoa.
Rudy, Maddie Klein, who plays Sarah, and then Elaine, one of our buddies. So it's been wild, to say the least. Yeah,
So
we're making
you're
the best
making
of
the
it.
best of it, to say nothing
Yeah,
else. That is
yeah,
insane. When was
yeah.
the last time you built a fort prior to this instance?
I wish I could say it's been a while, but
You're an avid
I'm
fort
I'm a
builder. You
fort
build them
guy.
all the time.
Yeah,
You're a
yeah,
fort guy. Okay, fair enough. That's good. It's
why
good to know
not?
who you are in that world. I
Absolutely.
haven't reached fort status yet, but I'm getting a lot of great ideas looking at these
I'm telling
photos
you, man.
right
I'm
now.
telling you, dude. It changes lives. It changes lives.
It looks like it does. The franchise I'm trying to blast through right now myself. I've missed the boat on the Fast and Furious movies. And so I'm
Ooh,
just trying
okay.
to get through a couple of those. Big fan of The
Mm-hmm.
Rock. I know he's going to pop up eventually. So I'm just trying to just plow through those and make my way through.
Dude, it's one for the books for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, fast cars, pretty ladies, Vin
I just
Diesel looking jacked as ever.
Exactly, and I'm relieved to hear someone else going through a film franchise because every time I bring that up, someone else is like, "Oh, I'm learning French," or "I'm learning a language." I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
"That's
no,
probably
absolutely no
way
educational
better."
purposes going on during this
Yeah,
quarantine. It's
no,
just
not at all.
junk food, movie franchises, and
That's it.
us
Surviving.
sitting in
That's what
corners.
we're
Yeah,
doing, man.
totally. Yeah.
You mentioned junk food. I've been terrible about that, man. I keep dipping into the food I'm supposed to be saving for later. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
have you
yeah.
established a great routine? Like you got the fort going. That's great. What's a regular day look like for you guys at this point?
So, we're trying to wake up at like a reasonable time, which is, I mean, near impossible at this point.
Can't do it.
Absolutely not. I mean, some days it's 7:30 in the morning, and then other days you're like, it's already 1 o'clock. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Rudy and I have been trying to like get, some sort of workout in, which is again near impossible when you've got a fort in the living room. So there's that. And then as time progressed, we went from like ramen and whatnot. We did a couple grocery store runs and got some actual food. So every night somebody's making a different dish. So
Oh, nice.
that's
What's
kind
your
of been the only structure.
Have you cooked
Um,
yet? Do you know, like, are you a guy that cooks? I know you're a fort guy. Where do you come when it comes to meals?
I got a couple dishes that I can get
Mhm.
with. A little bit of curry. Last night I did taco bowl,
Nice.
so I did some ground turkey breast with some rice and beans and kind of just mixed it all together
Mix
and
it up. It's hard to
a
go
little
wrong.
smorgasbord.
Yeah.
So we're
Very
trying.
nice.
We're trying. I mean, we went from like the sodium overload of ramen into like, okay, we've got to get some sort of like quality food in our
Yeah.
bodies, or we're just going to explode. I mean, it's just a ticking time bomb at this point. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, the important thing, man, is that you guys are safe and you're healthy
absolutely.
and you're maintaining
Mhm.
sanity and building elaborate forts. And I think that's what matters right now. Now more than ever, people
Absolutely.
need forts, and I'm glad you're not doing it alone. I'm glad you guys have each other, which is pretty
Look,
amazing.
it takes a village. I mean, it takes a village, a lot of chip clips and ingenuity. And that's what we've got between all of us. And hopefully we can keep it going.
It's true, man. My kitchen is lousy with chip clips. I never thought of applying them to the fort technology, though.
You know what?
Uh,
When you're quarantined for this long, chip clips start to take different shapes. And the next
yeah,
thing you know, you're like, this works for something else.
they clip so
So,
much more than just chips. That's all.
you know,
That's the thing.
multi-purpose.
Let's get into it, man. I was mentioning in
Sure.
the intro. I really dig this show. I really got sucked into it and pulled into it. You guys filmed this thing. I want
Thank
to say it
you.
was almost a year ago. I want to May of last year. I was reading. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We started, I believe it was May 1st. I got kind of a crazy call on Easter Sunday, and my agent was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, well, it's Easter, so I'm at brunch with friends, like I think most of the world. And he hung
Do the
up on
egg hunt,
me.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. Something. And then he called me back and he's like, "Are you available?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm unemployed right now. So yeah, I've got a pretty
Yeah. Very.
open schedule." And went from that to a call about 2 hours later, and I was on a flight that night down to Charleston. And the next
Wow.
day, I was meeting with the producers and the creators, Jonas, Josh, and Shannon, and the journey just kind of started there. So it was,
Yeah.
for me, it was fast. It was May all the way through October, because as you see, there's quite a bit of water and all sorts of fun
Yeah.
activities that we have to do. So shooting is a little bit more extensive than it would be if you're filming on a stage or in secured locations. So
For sure. I want to get into the water stuff in a second because there's a lot of that,
sure.
especially just in the
Mhm.
pilot. But when the whole thing started, did you like beginning to end? Were you John B? Did they have you read for other parts at first? Like, what was the journey like? Did you know what you were getting into?
No, no, I didn't. And that's
Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that because like this audition came to me in February. And when I read it, it was so vague that I immediately thought it was a Goonies reboot. And I'm like, absolutely not. Like I'm not gonna destroy
Can't
a
touch
piece of
it.
cinema
Yeah.
history. Because it just said John B, charismatic leader of a group of friends, four friends on a treasure hunt. And that was it. And it just said Netflix is doing it. And I'm like, well, Netflix does everything. So
Yeah.
it's got to be the Goonies. So I said, no, I don't want to do that. And then my agent was like, you should probably do it. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. So I passed on it. And then I got a call from the casting director because I grew up in the Southeast. I'm from Florida.
Hmm.
And Lisa Fincannon had called my agent. She was like, he really needs to read for this. It's not the Goonies. I'll send him the pilot. Let him read it and get back to me. So I read it. And this was like months later. This was in April, actually. And I read it and I was like, oh no. I was like, this is not the Goonies. Okay, well, we've got something completely different than
Far
everything that
from
I've
it. Yeah.
seen. And I read for it, and then they said we'll hear back by Friday, and by Friday we'll have an answer. And I didn't hear anything Friday, and then Easter Sunday was that weekend, and I was like, whoa.
Wow.
But other people had different journeys. I mean, I know Rudy, who plays JJ. He started out wanting to play JJ, and then they
Hmm.
thought he was John B, and then that kind of didn't really fit the mold, and he still kind of wanted to play JJ. So he
Hmm.
jumped ship again, and then went back to JJ, and then that's where him and I met at this like crazy smorgasbord chemistry read thing
Yeah.
where there's a couple John B's, a couple JJ's, and we're down in Charleston, South Carolina, all looking at each other like, "What? Does anybody have any idea what's going on at this point?"
Right. Just a
But
bunch of
yeah,
John B's
so
and JJ's hanging out, man. That's all.
yeah, I was like, I guess you're me and I'm you. So here we go.
Exactly. Well,
Whatever
this
happens,
show, man,
happens.
it's one of those things that kind of like hinges on the chemistry within that central group of friends being like
Right.
believable and fun to
Hmm.
watch. You guys, I think, totally nail it. Watching you
Thank
guys run
you.
around, it feels like a true group of like best friends that have known each other forever. Did that
Yeah.
take time? Did you know any of the guys or guys that you were working with, like, or was it all new people and new faces?
No, it was all new. I mean, I think the funniest story of the bunch would be I got off the plane, took the red eye, and I got in. I didn't even go to the actual hotel to drop my stuff off. I went straight to the production office for my read.
Okay.
And for lack of better terms, I was like on my last penny. I had to call my mom, ask for money because I had overdrafted my bank account. So I got an Uber from the airport to get to the production office. I walked in, I like had my hooded sweatshirt on, and I see this girl sitting in the lobby. And I'm like, hey, I know this is like a really shitty question to ask. But like I just sat in the middle seat for a red eye and had 19 pages of dialogue. And can you walk on my back? She was like, what? And I was like, I know this is crazy, but like, I'm like, my back needs to be cracked. And so this girl gets on my back and she's like, I probably should have like told you this before. I'm Madeline Klein. I'm playing Sarah Cameron. And I'm like, right. Okay.
No
And then
way.
next thing, yeah, and then next thing you know, Josh, Shannon, and Jonas opened the door to like the conference room where we're doing this chemistry read. And I had no idea at the time that I was like having a chemistry read with her right after this.
Yeah.
So at that point, like we kind of had established this friendship that was really kind of, you know, immediately working. And they were kind of like, okay, well, this might work. And then when it came with the rest of us, we all moved into the same apartment complex. So we were all 4 doors down from each other. Rudy and I like really wanted to make sure that this friendship was incredibly authentic. So Rudy and I actually lived together the whole time, which was a riot in itself. It was the central hub of every weekend shenanigan. I mean, it almost came a little too easy for all of us to be
Yeah.
friends, and you know, we had so many different activities because you know all of the boating stuff we didn't use stunt doubles.
That's all
Besides
you
some of
guys.
the scenes, yeah, except for the front flip, you know, that
Okay.
iconic front flip that Rudy didn't, you know, actually
Yeah.
toss himself over. But a lot of the things that you're seeing on the water, that's us. So we went through quite a bit of time of boating lessons with these insanely talented Marine coordinators down in
Wow.
Charleston. Lance, our head coordinator, he did like Titanic. He did The Hangover 2, that crazy scene where the boat lands in the wedding. Like that was him.
That's all him.
Um,
Wow.
so yeah, we had all of these experiences where we were kind of forced into this crazy world to where we just were having so much fun. It was kind of like a YMCA summer camp where you're
Yeah.
getting paid and Netflix is sponsoring it, I guess was the way that we looked at it.
What a
Um,
crazy ride, dude. That's
yeah,
amazing.
so it was a lot of fun.
You grew up, you said southeast down Florida. So that means you grew
Yeah,
up around water, grew up around boats and stuff
I
like that.
did.
Like, do you have a
Yeah.
comfort in
Mhm.
that area, right? Because they
Yeah.
ask a lot of you, man. You're
Hmm.
doing a lot of underwater work. You're doing a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that it's I don't know, maybe it's incredible CG or it's clearly you. Like it looks like it's you
No, yeah,
diving.
yeah. It
So
was it was
was
one
any
of
of
those
that
things.
scary or overwhelming or
You know, I think when you're so passionate about something, the fear sort of slips your mind, and you're just like,
yeah,
"All right, hold my beer. I guess we're gonna do this." But I didn't have time to let them know ahead of time that I grew up on the water. So I was walking through the production office after my first read with Jonas, and he's kind of giving me the lay of the land, and he's like, "Have you ever been surfing?" And I was like, "Well, I grew up like 35 minutes from Cocoa Beach, and I pretty much spent my summers surfing." And
right,
he's like,
right.
all right, that's a good start. And he's like, what about a boat? And I was like, and I just opened my wallet and handed him my boater's license. And he's like, all right, well, this is looking good. This is looking good.
Bonus. That was a
So
freebie. Like,
yeah, and I didn't have the time to like express that in the early audition process because I just there was no time to do it. So
yeah,
for me, it was kind of a little bit of an ode to me at 17 to be like, all right, I was kind of reckless, breaking into Ron John surf shop, being a complete fool and going to the beach and doing all that stuff. So for me, this is sort of really hits home in a lot of ways that I think I didn't even realize because, as you're doing TV, scripts are ever changing and you
yeah.
kind of have an idea of what you're getting into. But yeah, man, it was fun because I had a lot to pull from, a lot to draw from my own experiences and growing up and, some of the similar ways that John B does.
How
So,
old were you when you got your boating license? When did you get that?
um,
How does one get a
I,
boating license? It's totally alien
it's
world to
crazy.
me.
You go online. You go online, and
Oh,
it's a
really?
free course.
It's like
It
getting
takes
ordained.
a
Like
couple
that's it. Like you
hours.
could be a
Yeah, kind
minister
of.
and
You're
have
just
a boating
like, and you're
license.
married, with a boat.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, no, it takes a couple hours. I did it. My grandparents and my whole family is from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, so it's a very
Got it.
outdoor community. A lot of boating,
Yeah.
a lot of fishing, a lot of sailing. So I had been around boats in that sense my whole life. I'd been driving since I was really young, probably not legally. And
Yeah.
sorry, don't be one to bust there, but I got my boater's license I think when I was like 17,
Wow. Awesome.
16. So, but I had been on them and driven them my whole life, just never like made the
Yeah.
effort to get the test. So
Yeah. You never had the
um,
paperwork, but you knew it. Like you were familiar
I
with
knew
it.
I knew what I was getting into. Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure, man. This is, and keep me honest, you've been working for a little while, but this is like your
Hmm.
first like big leading role. Is a huge deal, number one on the sheet, front
Yeah.
of the poster, the whole thing. How did
Hmm.
you, outside of the water stuff, because it seems that's your comfort zone, that's where
Hmm.
you eat, you're good to go there.
Right.
Was there anything else you did to prepare so that when you walked in on day one, you were like ready to go?
Everything happened so fast, and I had a
Yeah,
really good conversation with Jonas that he really wanted this show is so grounded in reality that the prep for the actual character itself kind of just came naturally with being around the people. So we had this like 2.5, 3 week span before we shot to where I was with these kids every day. Like we're all together. There
yeah,
was never a moment it was like wake up, go to boating lessons for a bunch of hours. Then we go from boating lessons to swimming lessons, and we're getting thrown to the bottom of a pool with a brick and holding our breath and stuff. So you're kind of having these moments where you're sort of falling into the world in a way that the prep is creating itself. It didn't need that. And I also like coming in on Easter Sunday, like I didn't have, like most people get, you know, a month or two to prep for a show. I didn't have that time. So I was kind of relying on instinct. And then the first day in the pilot, that scene where Peterkin kind of comes over and is talking to me after, you know, the whole scene on the beach. That was my first scene. So I got immediately thrown to the wolves with Adina Porter, who's, you know, obviously an Emmy nominated actress, one of the most amazing people that I got to work with on the show. And it was like either you sink or swim. And that's kind of Jonas's mentality. But I mean, I grew up playing sports. So I think that fight or flight mentality kind of came into where I knew kind of the nuances of the character. We had this idea that Jonas and I talked about early on. And so I kind of had that in the back of my head, but just kind of allowed it to come freely and not really hold anything or have like a specific gold standard that we were really going with, and allow that to be the driving force. And as we sort of would, you know, do 1 billion takes, because we shot so much, I mean, just nonstop, just go.
Right.
You sort of find a take and you're like, oh, that felt right. And then we found that early. And then we went from there to, okay, this makes sense. Let's continue down this road. And then we did have a lot of freedom too. So a lot of the things there's a lot of improv in the show that a lot of people might pick up on. I mean, oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't want to throw it all away, but there's, you know, we had such a great outline of a script, and Shannon and Josh were so giving to us. And as we started to really develop these characters, they were really freeing in the sense that you could throw something at them and they're like, I mean, let's try it, see what happens. Let's get it on book once, and then let's see, you know, sort of what we come up with as we go. So it was really cool. I mean, JD was one of the youngest to graduate from Groundlings here in LA. So, you know, we've got kind of like this weird world of comedic people that I got to play with. Even Charles Esten, you know, from Whose Line Is This Anyways and doing The Office. It was awesome to be able to have that creative freedom to kind of throw things around.
My God, man, what an experience. And then also, well, that just answers my question of like the chemistry, and like speaks to just how tight knit you guys really. I had no idea you're all living together, and I hear you are a year later living together. Which is
in a tent this time. Yeah, just a different scenario.
Had you guys prior to everything happening and prior to like having to be locked down, had you guys hung out a lot before you decided, well, let's all live together again? Why not? Like, what was going on between a year ago when you shot and now tent time? Like, what happened in between?
So it was kind of really comical because I ended up booking another project as soon as this had finished. Yeah. So I was back in LA for like maybe a week and a half, and then I was shipped off to Vancouver to go do this pilot. And as soon as we all got back, it was like we have so many group texts and Snapchat groups and Instagram, you know, groups as well, that you kind of just like weasel through whatever platform makes sense on the day. And I remember it was like not even 24 hours after we had gotten back, and everybody was kind of like, so what are we doing tonight? And it just naturally formed into this. There was no gap in the time frame of like coming back to LA. Everybody was like, oh, I guess we're going here tonight, or oh, we're all going to hang out here. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, last night it was Drew, Rudy, myself, Maddie, and Elaine, and all, you know, 4 of the 5 people are in the show. Yeah. You know, we all kind of somehow, some way, whether Justin Bailey coming in the fold, JD coming in the fold. I mean, we all find time to get together and do things. I mean, we were all around for the sound mixes through the whole process of the post-production work. We would all show up to each other's ADR sessions to do the voiceover stuff. I mean, it just,
no way, man. That's amazing.
It's
that doesn't happen often. Like, you don't hear that a lot, man. I'll tell you, like,
you know, the more
you don't get a lot of that.
Yeah. The more as it progresses and we realize that isn't a normal thing, we kind of look at each other and sort of question it. Like, is this really true? I mean, because there hasn't been a day where all of us aren't communicating in some shape, way, or form. I mean, the first thing I woke up to was JD sending me a meme on Instagram. So that's kind of just the consistency of it all. Yeah. I mean, some dude doing a backflip.
Exactly. I'm going to wrap things up. We're just about out of time, man. But I want to congratulate you again. I mean, not only on this show, but on finding like a group of friends that it sounds like is going to last a lifetime. That's amazing. I'm so happy you guys found each other. Absolutely, but truly, the show is great. Congratulations. I did really enjoy it. And I was telling you before we started that like I got the screeners, and usually we do so many of these. So it's like, all right, I'll watch an episode and get the gist and move on because I got to prep.
Right.
But my wife and I, we just kept watching. Like the show is great. It really
That's
hooks you
awesome,
in.
man. Thank you so
And
much.
I'm excited to hear so much cool stuff about how you guys made it. So I appreciate
Thank you, dude. Yeah.
taking
And
the
lastly,
time
I
and
just want to
chatting.
say,
Yeah.
I've been a fan of the series for a while.
Man,
Two of
thanks.
my best friends who I grew up with in Florida have both been on your show. Brandon Latacuente, who did 13 Reasons Why, as well as Leading Party of Five. We've grown up together in Florida, and then one of my closest friends from high school, you also had on Jeremy Pope, who is now he's multiple Tony nominee, Grammy nominee, and now he's doing Ryan
So
Murphy's
awesome.
Hollywood series. So just a group of kids from Orlando somehow trekked out to LA and have made it here, and now we're all kind of sharing this weird similarity of being on the Build series, man.
That's
So
insane,
it's
man.
a really surreal moment. So thank you.
That's so. Thank you for saying that, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and when we get to the other side of this, as a community, as a
Mhm.
world, as whatever, and things
Totally.
get back to whatever normal is, I
Mhm.
hopefully, fingers crossed, I wouldn't be shocked to see a season 2. You got to come out to New York, come down to the studio, and hang out with us in
Absolutely,
person.
man.
We'll do this all over again.
Looking forward to it. And again, stay safe. I appreciate you having me on here. It's been a blast. And until next
Likewise,
time.
man. Yeah, stay safe as well. Thank you so much. Everybody, make some
Absolutely.
noise and thank Chase Stokes for hanging out with us wherever you are. Celebrate
Thank you,
this
guys.
man right here. April 15th on Netflix, Outer Banks, everybody. Chase Stokes. Have a good one, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Cheers.